Impossible things are impossible until they aren't. I'm Colin Wright, and you are watching Consider This. Consider that the 4-minute mile, running 1 mile in 4 minutes, was considered to be impossible for most of human history. Every running expert, every human physiology expert seemed to agree that running a 4-minute mile was just impossible based on the hardware, the biological hardware that we have available. In 1954, a man named Roger Bannister achieved a 4-minute mile, just below 4 minutes in fact, and shortly thereafter a bunch of other people began to do the same. Today the world record for the fastest mile is something closer to 3 minutes 43 seconds. 17 seconds under 4 minutes. It's safe to say that there was probably kind of a mental hurdle, a mental stumbling block, or a ceiling that we were applying to ourselves when it came to running the mile. We decided 4 minutes was impossible, and as a result, everything was under 4 minutes. Now, of course, wishes are not science, so it's not enough to just want to breach the 4-minute mile, to then breach the 4-minute mile. But knowing that somebody else has accomplished that feat does make it a lot more psychologically possible. It makes it a lot more feasible, and as a result you will train differently and you will act differently and you'll move toward it with greater persistence because you know it's not an impossibility that you're striving for, but something that somebody else has already accomplished, and as a result you absolutely can as well. So rather than having a goal that you set in almost kind of a self-defeating way, knowing that you probably won't reach it because it's probably an impossible goal, this is now an eminently achievable goal. You know it can be achieved, and as a result, that brings it within arm's reach, even if it's still a struggle to get there. There are a lot of seemingly indestructible barriers in our way, a lot of things that we tend to think of as being impossible. Moving faster than the speed of light, for instance, is something that we cannot figure out a way how that would even work. According to all of the science, all of the physics that we understand, it's an impossibility. And as far as we know, that is the speed limit of the tangible universe. There's no way that we could ever go further than that. But I would argue that's no reason to consider this feat impossible. I would say that as far as we know now, according to what we understand now, and according to the tools that we have available now, it's not something that we can do. That doesn't mean that we won't figure out a way to do it. Whether that means actually discovering that there's some piece missing to our understanding of the physical world, and as a result we discover another way to go faster than that, or maybe it's something that we change in our definition of the physical world so that we're better able to manipulate matter or bend space-time or warp space-time around a particular vessel so that we're able to bend the rules rather than breaking them. What I mean is that everything is impossible until we figure out that it's not. Every single achievement that we've ever accomplished in history, everything that any human has ever done, has at one point been an impossibility as far as we knew. It's not something that we'd done before. And so although there are no doubt literally impossible things that there's no way around and no reason to ever think that we could ever surpass them and breach these barriers that are in our way, it's not a good idea to assume that to be the case, because a lack of knowledge does not imply a lack of absolute capability. It just means that we can't imagine how that could possibly happen right now. We humans as a species tend to be horizon chasers. We like to know what's over the next horizon, what's over that next crest, and even if it's something that's a little bit foolhardy in terms of safety and security, these are things that we tend to consistently pursue. And so I would say anybody who bets on the barriers over humanity is probably somebody who lacks imagination. I can imagine multiple different ways that we would bypass the speed of light at some point in the future of our species. And so assuming that there's no way that we ever will is to really throw in the towel before you've even started running. The most honest thing that we can possibly say about anything on the fringe of our knowledge, any hurdle that seems to stand in our way, is that it is impossible until it's not. This is something that's worth keeping in mind with your own personal, perceived limitations, but also in terms of those bigger picture ceilings that we are told exist around us. It's a much better mindset, I think, to assume that we can always breach any ceiling that we find in our way, rather than deciding that it's impossible and therefore there's no reason to even try. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like or a share would be amazing. You can ask me a question to answer in a future video in the comments section below. You can find out more about me and my work, including the books that I've written, at colin.io. My blog is at exilelifestyle.com. My podcast is at letsknowthings.com. And you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet, all the different social networks, at Colin is my name.